because she's a young nerd.
And he's an old punk.
Hey everybody, this is Tim. Just want to say welcome. This is Young Nerd Old Punk, where Kelly and I participate in a subcultural exchange because she's a young nerd.
And he's an old punk.
Calm down, Jackson.
It's not a slur. Hey. He identifies as it.
Alright, starting off great. Back to my thought. How long can we actually call this Young Nerd Old Punk?
Are you calling me old?
I'm not saying you're old yet, but second half of the title, it can be used forever. But the young nerd half, it's going to age out at some point.
Old nerd. Younger. Not dead yet, nerd.
Not dead yet. Alright, so how do we want to start? Do you want to maybe start with my review of your stuff, or...
I will start with my review of what you shared with me.
Alright, so what I gave Kelly for this episode was, what was it, the March 1994 issue of Maximum Rocknroll. Those of you not familiar with Maximum Rocknroll, it's a zine. I was trying to find something, I guess, punk culture related that's not music, because I could give her that stuff all day, and zines are probably the next best thing for that mid-90s era that I guess I'm shooting for at this point. That's how you found out about new punk rock stuff. The internet was around, but not really commercially available to all of us. It was pretty expensive still. So this is how you found out what was going on and what new things you could buy. It was pretty much a mix between like a punk rock Bible and a punk rock version of the Sears toy catalog. So go right ahead, Kelly.
So I did a little bit of research because young nerd. Anyway, so it turns out that the March 94 one was right after Maximum Rocknroll decided to change up like how they were doing it, because they didn't want to have people who were signed with major record labels or record labels they didn't consider punk enough. So it was really kind of funny because there were articles in there about opinions or whatever, the letters to the editor, about how, like, how dare you decide what's punk rock? That's not really punk rock of you. And other ones agreeing. So I found it really kind of... I read about the major change before I read the zine, so it was kind of a cool... Oh, that's why they were talking about that.
And I didn't realize that was the actual issue. I do remember that taking place, but I didn't realize that was, like, the issue after it happened.
It was...
15 actually wrote a song about it.
Yeah.
About, I think at the time they maybe called it the Purge.
Yep.
They used a term somewhat like that, because it ended up leading to Punk Planet being founded too.
Yep.
Which I have some issues of that hanging around the house.
Yeah, it was like the third issue after the Purge, so that's when like the letters to the editors were coming
Finally
in,
started to
that
come in,
people were just angry or excited that punk rock was going to have a specific definition in this zine.
That's funny, because that list of... Because you had sent me over that picture of the list of, like, their...
Maximum faves.
Yeah, their maximum faves. And there was a lot of corporate bands on those lists, so that's even funnier that they didn't, I guess, purge their lists.
I also wanted to, like, make us appreciate that, like, so we're doing a best of this time, and it's in March, and this issue was from March, and it was the best of the year before. So we're not super late at getting our best of in.
No, I mean, you're kind of giving away what next episode's going to be, but that's
that
okay.
Next episode?
Yeah, that'll be
My
next
bad.
episode.
You can just ignore this part. Okay, so speaking of corporate bands, I was jotting down the ones I recognized, which were few and far between. Rancid, Neutral Milk Hotel, and Offspring.
Right.
But Neutral Milk Hotel, I don't know if you guys know about the Anne Frank conspiracy related to that.
I do, only because you told me about it.
And I just think it's really funny. So people theorize that the lead singer's wife is actually Anne Frank from the past, and he actually invented a time machine and brought her, because he has a song about getting a time machine and a song about Anne Frank, and they like combine the two. It's stupid, but it's all I can think of when I think of Neutral Milk Hotel. One of the ads that I saw made me giggle because it said free punk rock and $3 underneath.
Right.
I'm like, hey, it caught my eye, and I made sure. So if I did have pastime money, like,
right,
I'm sure I would have humored them. In regards to like the corporatization of punk rock and everyone being upset. There was a really neat quote that was, "Punk rock has become more listenable and less threatening." And there was also comments in there about how, like, the rich kids are getting into punk now and they don't understand. And
Right.
so it was kind of like they were trying to get rid of those people in their culture. Which
was ridiculous because, I mean, honestly, early 80s punk, if you read some biographies from guys around at that time, I mean, in Henry Rollins' book, Get in the Van, he talks about how he got piss thrown on him and how almost every show he was getting in fights. And it would bring people out, it's like, oh, I want to go see this violence.
Yeah.
But if they only come out one time, they don't get into it, and then your entire genre ends up dying. So, you know what, that rich kid paid for some decent band to stay on tour for a couple more weeks, so let them spend their money where they spend it.
Yep. There's also something, and my comment is, what year is it? There was mention of skinheads, but then I realized after reading pretty thoroughly that skinheads are a type of punk, but also some of them are Nazis.
Yeah.
There's a fine line, though, apparently.
So, I mean, it kind of falls with how skinheads somewhat started. Skinheads originally were more of a lower-class working rights deal.
Okay.
But anytime you get the working class together, and they're white...
And they don't have hair.
Yeah, and then they don't have money, they start to blame their plights on the races around them, so that brings in the racist angle. But yeah, you say skinhead now, you think of a Nazi. And honestly, majority of the skinheads I've ever met, maybe one or two of them are the worker rights style. The majority aren't. They're racists. Though they may not portray themselves as such until they get into a group of people that are only white.
Yeah. So, the next chunk were the columns. And these were just user-submitted, it seemed. And it said that it's not what the editors of the magazine think. It's about what, these people think. And one that I read thoroughly was called Take My Life As You Please by George Tabb. And I looked into who George Tabb is because I was curious if these people were significant in any way. Let me find the screenshot I took.
I mean, name's not ringing any bells for me, so...
He is the founding member and songwriter in such punk bands as Roach Motel, Atoms for Peace, False Prophet, Lech Patrol, and Furious George. He also was the main producer on some punk show that I didn't jot down because it killed itself. And it's not on here, it's on his YouTube for some reason. But either way, he was in a movie called Summer of Sam. His band was.
Oh, right, yeah.
Specifically Furious George.
Oh, yeah, because is it the band that Adrian Brody goes to see in that movie?
Yes,
yeah, because I remember that scene in that movie.
He produced and directed Destroy Television, which was New York's longest-running punk cable show.
All right.
So I watched some of the clips from that, and it was a hot mess, like it should be.
Right.
But it was kind of cool.
I might check that out.
Also was in New York City during 9/11, and he has a lot of unexplained health problems following that.
Right.
Because he was close enough to ground zero that completely screwed him up. But he's still alive. He is active. But to the column he wrote. So, the first bit of the column, he's talking about how, the remote control is like an extension of a man's penis because they always have it, they hold on to it, they have the control.
Was he like a Seinfeld-style comedian?
Oh no. And then the mention of this beautiful quote comes up. Blondie was every teen punk's fantasy.
Hey, he's not wrong.
Well, this turned into that teen punk's fantasy, and suddenly Blondie came with with his bandmate into his home, and she's sitting in his spot.
Oh, you know what? I somewhat remember this article a little bit.
She is using his remote control and stroking it. And me sitting here reading, I'm like, holy shit, I am reading some teen punk's Blondie fanfic.
Yeah, no,
maybe
I
Star
do
Wars
remember
or Star Trek fanfic isn't the first fanfic, and it's this. But I could be wrong. But it was just kind of an interesting look into just that culture and what his thoughts were on it. Another one, I didn't actually jot her name down, was about how, like, this guy, like, just straight up, they met 2 minutes before, and he, like, forcibly kissed her, and how she beat the shit out of him, and she's like, I never thought I'd be in this situation, and I didn't know how I'd react, but looking back, I'm really happy I reacted the way I did, and that was kind of interesting, because, you know, sexual harassment all over is a big thing, and it's always has been, sadly, will likely always will.
I mean, I grabbed the issue blind. I didn't really flip through it or anything before I gave it to Kelly, but that part of the reason that I had kind of grabbed that one was because they had basically these lists of societal problems in 94. If they put out an issue today, it probably has the same fucking list of problems for 2017. It's just like, we made no progress as a species. Way to go, guys.
Speaking about those problems, actually, there was a section about that was just like news clippings. Mm-hmm. And one of the articles was a mention about how court-appointed lawyers are just screwing people over and they're on death row. Right. Well, as we all know, court-appointed lawyers are a problem because they're so overworked, underpaid.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's not that those guys don't want to help, but you pay them nothing and you give them a caseload of hundreds of cases. They only have 10 minutes to meet with a client.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something we're used to in our field, so we've seen how that works out.
Yeah. Another, like, small bit was, there was a column about the dress code for punk rock, and I found it just kind of funny, because it was obviously one person's perspective on this, and I'm sure the next couple articles are going to have people pissed off about what he said.
Right.
Number one was no baseball caps. No baggy shorts.
Right.
And then he highlighted backpacks.
Right.
Backpacks are for school or hiking trips.
Okay, so you can take backpacks to shows, but in the mid-90s, this was an annoying phenomenon. Because usually, the backpack kids, they had cameras, they want to be up front, but they also would whine incessantly when they got jostled around. But, you're at a punk rock show. If you don't want to be jostled or hit, you kind of got to back away from that center stage. So I understand that a little bit.
Oh, no, his reasoning was specifically because they're for school or hiking trips and you look stupid with
right.
them on. Much like our favorite person who carries a backpack daily.
Right.
Tim.
Me. Yeah, I do. I carry one every day. But I didn't carry one then, and I wasn't in the front complaining about getting hit. And that's the other thing, too. I make it sound like people are going out of the way to hit other people. No. You do control yourself somewhat and avoid hitting people that you kind of know don't want to be touched. But you can't have total control when you have 15 people or 20 people pushing each other around. It's going to happen. But that's the thing that annoyed me about the backpack kids. I would guess the baseball caps, baggy pants were tied in more to... So you had grunge going on in that same time frame. And punk rock at the time was trying to make it clearly defined, like, okay... Grunge is over in this corner. We're in this corner. Yeah, there's some similarities, but don't be bringing your Nirvana shit to our shows.
So, with that, there was a pretty good chunk of this thing about leather jackets specifically.
Oh yeah.
No spikes, studs, or patches.
Right. Too cliche.
Has tastefully placed buttons on the labels.
Who does that?
Is that pronounced that way?
Lapels. Yeah.
And then. The next thing was about shoes. No Doc Martens. Other boots are okay, though.
Well, you know what? The Doc Marten thing always bothered me, too. Because you're this punk rock kid, you're not supposed to care about fancy things or possessions.
On a pair of shoes.
Yeah, and you just drop... Actually, Docs, I think, you're talking $300-$400. They're expensive as hell, yeah.
I don't buy things.
Would it be acceptable if you got them from a Goodwill? Is it okay?
That would be okay.
Do you have to carry a sign?
You have to carry the receipt.
Yeah, these are from Goodwill.
And then,
if you find a pair of Doc Martens at Goodwill, text me immediately and let me know so I can ask you if they're my size.
They got real popular for a while.
I've never seen a pair like that at any secondhand store. I'd be amazed.
Now we're going to see them nonstop.
Hopefully,
and we'll just post them to the Twitter. At Frisky Discs.
Doc Martens.
And for tennis shoes, only Converse if they're tennis shoes and only black.
Ooh, yeah. I did wear Chuck Taylors consistently through that time frame. Though I wore blue. I didn't do any, I'm not doing bright red shit like that. It doesn't match with anything. What's the purpose?
The other thing that I didn't quite get was no gas station jacket, and I didn't bother Googling it.
Oh.
What the fuck is a gas station jacket?
Okay, so... It would be more like you were an employee at a gas station. It'd have your name on the tag.
Okay.
I can tell you, I owned at least one of the jackets.
I actually think I own one of those.
I had multiple shirts that were that way, yeah. So I get that too. It was because it was trendy at the time.
Yeah.
And that also, it wasn't really more of a punk rock thing. It was more of an indie, sort of like Pavement and Sebadoh fans. They wore shit like that. Punk rock kids didn't.
Yeah. One of my final things that I noted in the whole thing, so someone did a top movies of 93, like, list.
Oh, nice.
And
Can't wait to
only
hear.
one that I'd ever seen, I didn't.
Oh, yeah,
It's
but
in
the
my
whole
car.
list.
Oh, no. Number 7 was The Lion King. So it was just kind of
Awesome.
funny, like, catching that in there.
Right, there's a mix of eclectic indie films and then Lion King.
Yeah, it was pretty beautiful.
That's pretty funny.
I also found it really cool that, like, there was, like, a small handful of the ads that had emails, and one of them was some guy's university email.
Right.
Like, it was, like, at such and such university.edu. So it's kind of, this is 94, so before everybody had...
Yeah, and it probably was just like a year before, too, because I'm going to say, I'm thinking 95 is when I started getting internet access. I paid for it in my household.
Yeah.
My parents were fine with that. Well, my dad wasn't okay with it. He thought that computers were part of the devil's plan to steal our souls, so it took him a couple years to come around, but he loves the internet now.
He must love porn.
Yeah. I don't think porn hurt in helping him enjoy the internet.
So
But he's more of a Facebook fan.
yeah, the email thing, like, I don't remember not having internet in, like, my earliest memories.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Like, 94, 95, 96-ish, so...
Yeah.
I'm not super shocked, but we also were fortunate enough to be living on a military base, so everything except, like, our internet was paid for us anyway, so my parents could afford to have it.
Well, we were kind of lucky, too. We had, our town basically provided internet service, so it was affordable.
Wow.
If we had to go on, like, AOL or CompuServe, back then it was just way too expensive to even think about affording it, but my town was pretty forward-thinking in building their own internet service back then.
That's crazy.
So, yeah.
I think, like, in comparison to, like, current day stuff, this zine was, like, a forum of, like, all sorts of crap.
Yeah.
And it was really cool because it was, you know, people commenting on stuff from the previous issues, and then people also discussing what's punk rock, and shit ton of ads, and one was cut out, I'm assuming.
Oh, was there one cut out?
Yep.
Okay, we might find that in the future then. Because I have another idea for later down the line on these episodes, but I don't want to share it with Kelly yet.
That's neat. Your zine?
I'm not saying.
I'm not saying. No. And, like, I had a small inkling of what a zine did, because they're kind of coming back in, like, the more nerdy cultures. And they're also, apparently there's been a big renaissance of libraries preserving zines, because librarians are huge nerds who like to preserve history. And
they're
that's part of
probably
history.
about my age.
Yeah.
And they remember reading them themselves, yeah.
So, just something to keep in mind. Check out your public library and see
yeah.
if they have a collection. If not, if you have some, if they'd be interested in taking them off your
Shit, I
hand.
wouldn't mind donating a few, though. I don't know if that issue will make it. It is falling apart.
Oh, I have some bad news about that issue. The cover is no longer attached.
That's fine. I mean, it was already off.
So my
when I
cats
gave it
were
to you.
really interested in it. They don't stand on stuff I'm trying to read normally.
Right.
But the mustiness or something made them convinced it was something for standing.
Right.
Like, both cats were super into it. And one of my cats decided to, like, jump off of it into the cat tree. Because cats are morons. I took a picture of my cat standing on it, which you are most likely seeing right now if you're on the YouTube video.
I mean, your cats are dead, but I'm not upset about it.
Oh no, it was one of the
Actually, I was actually pretty surprised that they still do print issues.
Yeah.
Because what's the purpose? You could throw it online and be done with it. I mean, I get some people like physical stuff, but why really? It's going to clutter up your house. And much like me, what's the most you're going to do with it? What? We look at like 13 years later. Yeah, 14 years later. They do have a podcast now. And I've only listened to a couple episodes. The first one I listened to, I was a little disappointed. It was like, all right, new music. But it was some new music with rehashes of things I'd already heard. But the second episode I listened to, they really honed in on like specific scenes. The second episode I listened to was it was based on classic Toronto punk rock, Which I somewhat found that more interesting, that it was sort of a history lesson. So, I mean, if you're interested in punk rock and I guess interested in the history, I would check out the MRR Radio podcast.
Cool. You should definitely message them this podcast so they can listen to a 25-year-old's opinion on something that is nearly as old as they are.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's all I have for Tim's half of the young nerd old punk, name pending. I had him watch a few YouTube videos. You can check out the list on our Twitter. We'll link it somewhere, I am sure, at Frisky Discs. Discs are plural. That's why it sounds like we have a stutter. So I had him watch a small collection of stuff that I watch kind of daily. Some of it's special videos. One of them was a video by Bill Wirtz, an episode of the Philip DeFranco Show, an Ashen's toy review, two Vlogbrothers videos, one by John Green, one by Hank Green, and an episode of Binging with Babish. So, what did you think? How did you feel?
Well, I kind of scratched notes as I was going. History of the entire world from Bill Wirtz. So if you watch this video, get past... Okay, so there's the thing where he'll be talking. He talks quickly. I mean, he gets through it pretty quick. But they'll do singing like, helium or oxygen. And in that first 3.5 to 4 minutes, they use that a lot. And I almost was like, all right, I'm skipping. I can't take this. After that mark, though, they use it more sparingly and I think more effectively. Mm-hmm. But I did really like that movie. I heard the video after they took that shit out. I mean, if you can just get past that first 3.5 minutes, it's worth watching. It lasted, 20 minutes, I'd say, 21. Somewhere around there.
There's another one that's a history of Japan that's similar stuff, and there's little catchy quips.
Right, well, I know it's on the history of the entire world where I felt like they really screwed up. They forgot the formation of the greatest band in history, U2. Oh, man. But no, that definitely, go check that out. It wasn't my favorite, actually. I have one that was definitely my favorite, but it was really close. Philip DeFranco. So the first thing that struck me, it reminded me, his style, actually the entire set, everything around him, it reminded me a lot of like ESPN host shows. And man, that type of sports broadcasting is so fucking terrible. I hate it. He's good at it, but I just don't like that style.
Little background on him. He's a YouTuber who's been a YouTuber since the dawn of man. And he's been doing this news show since, 2007. And, he's slowly trying to create his own news network because YouTube is not being viable for a lot of creators anymore. Right. Because, advertisers are not liking a lot of the stuff that YouTubers are creating these days. Right. So some of that, it used to be literally a guy in his office, but he has a studio now. I would prefer that. It reminded me too much of, Colin Cowherd, I don't even watch that stuff anymore because it's so annoying to me. So if I was him, I'd maybe go back to the well in that office idea. Yeah. Because that was the thing, was the set, everything was so ESPN-ish that... For someone like me, it doesn't bring you in. It's instantly click, close, I don't watch that. But I did watch it all. Yeah. It started off with entertainment-style news, and that kind of made me zone out because I'm not really interested in that either. But if you are, I think he does a pretty good rundown about what's going on. Yeah. I did love the advertising for Shop DeFranco. That was by far my favorite part. I don't remember exactly what made me laugh so hard about it, but it was hilarious. I am hoping that it was the t-shirt that says... why be informed when you can use your opinions as facts? Because that's one of the shirts that was highlighted. Right now. It was highlighted in the advertising, but just the style of the advertisement made me laugh. So then it caught me off guard because then he started doing actual, regular news. And at the time I thought, a little conspiracy theory-ish because he was talking about the guy that was poisoned by the Russians. Yeah. And honestly, probably the most coverage I had seen about that. And for me, I read a lot of political news. That seemed to have gotten somewhat buried until earlier this week when the British came out and said, no, these dickhead Russians poisoned this guy. Oh, no, he has a team of, researchers and stuff, So, I mean, while it's not for me, I could see where some people would love it. It's just not for me.
Next was the Ashen video, the weirdest Star Wars figures. This video was 25 minutes long. Honestly, I didn't see much difference between watching that and watching the videos my 2-year-old watches. It's just some dudes playing with toys. And I am not a Star Wars fan. I just generally am not. Occasionally I'll get an itch to watch something Star Wars related. Once that itch is satisfied, I'll see you in 6 years, Star Wars.
Yeah.
So it's not for me anyways, and I'm not a toy collector.
I think Ashen's for me is one of those. He's also an older school YouTuber.
Right.
Some of his early videos. He used to do videos on like fake iPhones, fake systems, counterfeit games, and it's just kind of evolved and devolved into like what's advertiser friendly these days. But I throw that on. He does
Right.
mystery box ones, but like a lot of the Loot Crate ones nowadays are people being like, "Oh my god, I love this," and he's like, "This is shite," and
Right.
"I hate this," and "I don't understand why this is in the box." Ooh, stickers.
And honestly, that was the other thing too. It didn't really seem like it was to them the weirdest toys, because I'm sure there are weirder toys in the Star Wars universe. As much it was them like, these toys are fucking garbage.
Yeah.
Like 2 or 3 of them, they were not happy with their toy purchases. I was not happy with the video. So just to give you the heads up, this is what is going to hurt your score at the end. The next one was the Broccoli Tree, a parable from the Vlog Brothers. It's not bad, it's just a bit sappy.
Yeah.
Now we got that out of the way. It actually was a parable too. That's what I found hilarious was, people throw the word parable around, but this was like a classic Aesop Fable style parable situation. U2 was in it.
Well, that's all we need to know.
And just more proof about how big a piece of crap Bono is. He goes on and on about how we need to help others. But this video points out that, back in 1986, he's going around taking pictures for his Joshua Tree album, and he ended up killing this tree. But to clarify, this video is not about U2 in any situation.
I didn't even think of that.
There is a brief mention of them. I don't want to talk about it too much, because you should turn this off and go watch that right now, because it was really good.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that video.
So a little bit about John Green, who specifically did that video in the Vlog Brothers. He is a YouTuber. He is an author. He wrote Looking for Alaska. More recently, not The Star Won't Go Out. That's his charity. Anyway, The Fault in Our Stars, which every girl has ever read right now lately. Turtles All the Way Down is one of his more recent books as well. So he's a famous author, and
That's what I say after I take a dump. Turtles All the Way Down.
He recently, so the Vlog Brothers started in, I don't know what year, so I'm not going to name it, and it was a textless communication for a year between him and his brother Hank, and so they only communicated by telephone or through these videos. So they started, and they just continued doing it. They now email each other. They're allowed to do that, but they just do videos, I think, twice a week now. It used to be every day of the week.
Right.
And it's just, they have a little community. It's the Nerdfighter community. And they have all sorts of things, like the science show that is spawned off of it.
Yeah, actually, I was going to say, Hank was not in the video. The next video that guy was in, we've actually used their videos for training where we work. So, they make quality videos. The next one up was, same from the Vlog Brothers. This is going to seem dumb, but stick with me. It is by far the greatest sidewalk story ever told. I suspected I would never hear a sidewalk story that would change the course of my entire life, but it did. That style-wise, they were kind of the same. Sort of this, hey, there's this ordinary object that you may not observe, but let's see how it ties into the whole world. I just don't think it hit as well as the Broccoli Tree Parable did.
Yeah.
He was going for the same style video. It just didn't connect with me the same way. If I had sent the list out, I probably would have put this one before the Broccoli Tree, because perhaps if I had watched this one first, it would have had more of an impact rather than watching the Broccoli Tree Parable
I think
first.
with those two, I just did them in the chronological order they were put
Oh,
out.
gotcha,
so,
yeah.
yeah.
definitely would recommend the reverse. But I mean, if you really like the broccoli tree, I would give the next one a chance just to see if you like it. After thinking about some more, both videos somewhat reminds me of the radio show, and there was a television show, This American Life. Almost in the delivery, everything, how they handled it, it was very similar to This American Life.
Yeah, and they do all sorts of videos. Hank used to do song, I can't remember which day of the week, but he has this whole like bunch of these songs that he wrote like every other week. And they're from everything about Harry Potter to about the Demolition Derby. And they're all just these nerdy little folkish songs that he has done. I don't think he's done any recently. He also tours with a band that Hank Green and some people. I don't know who.
Right. All right. And the last was Binging with Babish.
Binging with Bobbish.
I typed it wrong. That's what it
Binging.
is. Oh, typing too fast. The Frasier special. Now, you had previously sent me the one from Sunny in Philadelphia where he was making rum ham. And I did eventually watch that. If you're not a cook at all, I think you'd probably like just the ones that relate to shows or movies you've watched. You would enjoy those, I think, no matter what. If you are looking to get like super creative in the kitchen, pull up a couple and give it a shot, because I can't remember what was it he made. I don't remember, because I just remember the rum ham video very well. It was some weird crap, though, that they had in that Frasier family. But it's worth it, if you're bored and you enjoy cooking as, I guess, some relaxation technique, it would be a good one. Just go, what? I am going to make this thing that sounds like it may taste like garbage and see how it goes.
My boyfriend and I actually frequently make a recipe from one of his videos. It's from Chef. It's pasta, oil, and garlic. I can't pronounce Italian, so I'm not going to try.
Right.
And it's delicious and super easy, so...
Yeah, like I said, the thing he made from the Frasier sounds terrible, but it looked pretty decent after he got done. Mm-hmm. So, or if you were just into generally cooking shows. I thought it was a solid cooking show.
He does also Basics with Babish, where he teaches you how to make chicken, steak. So there's the cooking show aspect, but he's also... It's pretty much grown from this, him creating these meals that he saw on a TV show.
Right. Like I said, which is a creative idea. I'm surprised he's not on, doesn't have an actual television show, because there's worse garbage on TV than what he's doing. So I guess that brings us to final scores.
Final scores.
Did you do final scores this time?
I forgot that was a thing again, because we've done this, twice?
Yeah, this would be the second time we've done this.
There wasn't a reminder or a guideline, so my bad. But honestly, I wouldn't mind finding more issues of Maximum Rocknroll and flipping through them. They are very interesting, not only look into the culture, but also a look into the world during that time. It's a small history. Yeah. I would give it a solid 8. Because it's not something I innately would have been interested in, and they are super ad heavy, which I understand.
Yeah.
Why, but it's pretty cool.
Right on. You're using a 10-point scale, I assume? All right, I use a 5-point scale.
4 out of 5.
4. Okay.
Fractions.
Yeah, exactly. So if you removed the Star Wars figures, I would have easily given this a 4 out of 5 pocket protectors, which is my scoring system for Kelly's nerd recommendations. Star Wars hurt. Yeah. It's going to have to be a 3 out of 5 just because that one hurt. But again, I'm not the target market, so maybe I shouldn't bring the score down, but man, 25 minutes of that was pretty rough. Yeah. So I'm going to have to hurt you there. All right, anything else before we end the show?
Nothing I can think of.
All right, so we'd just like to close with, whether you're a punk,
or a nerd,
a him,
or a her,
never be afraid to make your voice heard. Oh, you're close. I like voice better than self now.
Well, you wrote it.
Well, I guess we'll try that again next time.
Yeah.
Later.